Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Guess who's back? Welcome, welcome. Apologies about the late start. I am an idiot and I started the wrong meeting. So my bad. You think it'd be simple enough to just start the meeting, the right meeting, but nope, I had to go into the wrong thing and the wrong account and blah 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 blah. Well, you got me. Yep. Sorry to break it to you guys. I'm back. uh for most of you that know, I was supposed to be traveling today. Let me just say that COVID is a real bitch. So that's why I'm here. I don't have it. It's just the nonsense surrounding it. All right. So I'm gonna give everybody just another minute. Again, I'm sorry about the late start. I clicked on the wrong meeting. It's good. I'm doing much better. Good evening. Good evening. All right. Uh, 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 uh. This is a recording. Come on, you can't record this face. Just kidding. Nope, I'm live. I'm live like every time. I don't know why people think that somehow there's gonna be the webinars are recorded, or how I could be talking to you guys, or answering your questions and stuff. Alrighty, so on that note, we will get into it once again. Good evening. My name is Nadir. I am your instructor. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time, welcome. For the rest of you coming back, welcome back. This is the second of our three free sessions. So we'll get into it. Again, today is our second session, and we will be continuing on from where we carried on. Today we'll be talking about the SDLC basics. We'll also be talking about sprint planning and grooming. Before I continue, please let me know if something happens with the whatchamacallit. Also, we'll be talking about who won the bug contest. Yeah. If there's any issues with the audio or video, or I'm breaking up, or the presentation disappears or something, please let me know. Secondly, if I am speaking too quickly, which I tend to do at times, also please let me know. I will slow it down. I have to try to slow it down, otherwise I just go blah 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 blah. All right. So on that note, we'll get into it. As I mentioned today, these are the competition winners. Your first prize goes to Jasmine with 20 bugs. Second prize goes to Michael with 17. And Veniamin with 15 comes in third. All right. Get in touch with the admissions team. Let them know, hey, look, I came in for second or third. So number one, congratulations to you guys. Well done. Good job. Secondly, get in touch with the admin admissions team. They will make adjustments that they need to make according to who won what. All right. Way to go, Jasmine. Good job. Secondly, we're not going to be going over any of those bugs today. So don't worry about this. And thirdly, the record for the most amount of bugs found in this competition. All right. And when I tell you the number, you're gonna lose you're gonna lose it. Is 147, I think, was how much she came up with. I forgot her name, but I mean, I was like, what? How does anybody come up with that? Yeah, yeah. Humans is pretty buggy, especially when we first give it to you guys. It's extremely buggy, right? Alrighty. So on that note, once again, congratulations and to you guys, Jasmine, Michael, and Veniamin, and we will continue on today to the more important stuff. So agenda for today, just one thing, guys, was very important. Today is going to be a lot of me talking. All right. I'm going to be explaining to you the whole SDLC process. Alrighty. the Scrum process. You might even do Scrum Poker, I think, if it comes down to it. And obviously, we'll do any Q&A. We did start a few minutes late, so we'll make sure to try to catch up everything. I'm not gonna keep you over what you're supposed to be over, but we'll try to get everything done in time. I'll try not to yakety yak and tell personal stories too much. All right. Don't worry about Jira for right now. For those of you concerned with Jira and stuff, let's stay on task. Yeah. Let's focus on this. You're putting the cart before the horse. Okay. What are you gonna do in Jira? Do you know how to write a test case? Do you know how to write a bug? Do you know how to write anything in Jira yet? Nope. We have at least 2 sessions related to Jira. All right. And what is all this stuff that it's on the agenda? Well, that's what we're gonna learn today. That's what you're here for. All right. So let's hop into it. All right. So what is the SDLC? The SDLC number 1 stands for the software development life cycle. All right. This is something that is the absolute minimum thing you should know as a QA engineer, as a software tester, anything of the sort. Anything you do in IT, you have to understand that there is what's called a SDLC, which is a software development lifecycle. Now, the definition I'm going to go over right now, but what it means is what the SDLC is the entirety of everything from coming up with an idea. Remember, whenever we have an application, we are there to solve a problem, right? So coming up with the first idea of how to solve the problem, all the way to the end where it's actually delivered to customers, it's live, it's being used, and we're just doing maintenance on it. Okay, that is what the SDLC is. Now we're gonna go into, excuse me, we're gonna go into every single portion of that right now, but I just want to give you a quick little idea about what it is. Remember when I said, we're going to try to give you a 360-degree understanding of how the whole process works. Now, this is the day where we learn what the process really is. Okay. Again, everything is about process in software testing and being a QA engineer, right? There's documentation. There's, everything in a sense is formalized. It's written, it's discussed in order for everybody to be on the same page, right? We do not want people to be there should be no confusion between 2 parties or 2 teams on the same team, right? um, on the same project in a sense, right? So again, the SDLC is a process used by the industry to design, develop, and test high quality software. All right. The aim is to produce high quality software that meets or exceeds expectations, reaches completion within time and cost estimates. Every single minute that is spent developing or fixing or working on an application equals money. Now that money means that, for example, there's a developer. They are getting paid. QAs are getting paid. Project managers are getting paid. Product owners are getting paid. Everybody is getting some sort of money in the moment. And so every second that you are spending being confused, any moment that you're spending that is not kind of geared to making sure you get the deliverable, you get the final product out, is $1 and a minute wasted. When they say time equals money, that's how it works in the real world. Every second you're on the job, every minute that you are, not every second, but every second, minutes are made of seconds, right? Idiot. um, every minute you're on the job equals somebody is adding money to basically to your account in a sense. And that means that cost of the application, the time it takes to complete it, that project is going to get higher and higher. All right. So the whole point of this is to make sure you come up with a timeline of when something is going to be delivered and a cost estimate of how much it's going to cost to do it, including everybody on the project. Okay. Now, what exactly again, when we talk about the SDLC, right, there's a lot of planning there's involved. There's a lot of meetings that are involved, right? The SDLC itself, it consists of a detailed plan describing how to develop, maintain, replace, or fix, or change, or update any of the existing or new software that's being created. Okay. The life cycle defines the methodology from improving the quality of software and overall development process. Now, what does that mean? That means that, again, you are following a guideline, a plan, right? You're not just going willy-nilly. It's like you cannot build a house without a set of blueprints, right? And this entire thing is the blueprint on how your project is going to get done, succeed, start to finish, okay? Does everybody get the definition of SDLC? Now, the specifics we're going to get into next, but just as the general definition, do you guys understand? Is there any questions? Cool. So it looks like everybody's on board. Now, this is what the life cycle looks like. Now, you're gonna see a lot of this cyclical kind of, what would you call this? Idea. You're gonna see the cycle idea repeat over and over again, right? Because here's the thing in software development, right? There is no beginning and there is no end, because a circle has no beginning and end, right? It continuously keeps on going. Even like, so every time you go through one whole cycle of something, it's considered, or it's called an iteration. Okay. Please remember that particular word, iteration. Now that means how many times something is done, a cycle. Google it to see what it means in the terms of what it, I'm such an idiot. I keep sending it to myself. Iteration. When you repeat something or you go through a cycle once, that's considered one iteration, right? So one circle around the sun for the earth is considered one iteration, right? One day in a sense. So one circle around, or is it 24 hours? I never figured that out, whatever it is. But that's kind of the idea. One iteration around the sun. It could be a year, it could be a day. I don't know the math of it, whatever. But this is how it starts, right? So again, it begins with the ideation. Remember, there is an idea that I have that I need to that I want to develop a product. Now, that product could be, again, it could be anything. That is either to solve a problem or it could be a brand new idea, right? But it all starts with the ideation, where you're sitting brainstorming in a garage, I don't know, getting high and just talking about crazy shit, right? it's again, it's just it could be in a professional setting, it could be in not so professional setting. But the idea is that you sit there and you kind of, either you sit there or you just come up with it, or a customer comes to you and says, I have a problem, right? So that's where the ideation comes in. So again, you want to solve a particular problem faced by the target user. So whoever the end user is, whoever the customer is, whoever the person is who's having the problem, we've come up with an ideation. We figure out an idea of how to resolve that issue. Now, once you come up with the idea, the next step is to ask the customer or find out exactly what needs to be done and document it, which is where our requirements come in, right? So interacting with stakeholders and users to collect, document project requirements. Basically, that means, what the hell do you want, right? And can you literally spell it out for me, right? This is now the requirements section of the project is the responsibility of the business people, right? It could be a VP, it could be what's called a product owner, it could be a project manager, it could be a business analyst. All those people are on the business side of things, right? We're on the IT, the tech side, and there's a business side, all right? So they will go to the customer, they will talk to them, they will organize, they will figure out exactly what it is they're looking for. Now, the customer can be as specific as they like, or they can be as general as they like, right? So it's the business side of the company's job, the business side of the team, right? Because it's all just one big team on the project, right? It is their responsibility to come up with the requirements that are then given to the tech side, right? So customer has a problem. We figure out, okay, here's how we're gonna solve your problem. Then we talk to the customer and we find out, okay, tell me specifically what you want. Now, once that information is given to us, the next part of it is the design process. Now, this is where the tech side, the IT side comes in, right? Now, this is where the architecture of the system is started to being developed. Now, this is what you would call the blueprint phase, right? The blueprint to the blueprint. So this is done by architects who are, much senior, hired, and specific developers that do a specific thing, which is to architect what system is going to be used, what language are we going to use, how are we going to structure it, what type of database are we going to use, what is the layers going to look like, blah 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 blah, right? Again, those conversations we are not a part of as QA, right? So far QA is not involved, right? This is all happening, concurrently. Concurrently means at the same time as QA is there. Okay, so the design is done. The the IT, the tech, the developer, architects, they'll come up with the idea. They'll design exactly how the system is going to be, what the system is going to be. Then they hand it over to the developers, the coder monkeys, right? They'll say, okay, this is what needs to be done. This is how we are supposed to, this is what languages, etc. This is what system we're going to use, etc., etc. Now go and start coding and write me some code to do, X, Y, and Z. Write me the code to answer this problem that we're trying to resolve. All right. So that's when the developers start developing. All right. Now, while the developers are developing, right, this is where QA gets involved pretty much as well. QA gets the same information that the developers get, and we start doing our testing related activities. What those activities are, I'm going to get into it in a few minutes. Right now, I want you to understand the big idea. All right. So while the developers are doing their development, they're writing their code, QA is coming up with our test cases, is coming up with our tests, our documentation, everything that we need for our little portion of the project to be successful, right? So we weren't involved here, and probably here, but now we're involved, all right? Testing portion of the application after the development is done, that is where we eat, right? That is where we live. Now, once all the testing is done, the next part of this is deployment, which means that it goes live. It gets to the customer. People start using it. All right. Now, once that's done, everything is good. Launch is successful. After that is the maintenance phase, right? We will continue to maintain our product, make sure that whatever issues we're finding, we're solving them. We'll continue to make sure that, if there's anything that needs to be changed, fixed, we do that. And if anything needs to be improved, we do that. And if we need to add new stuff, we do that as well. Okay. Will there be times that it is deployed and then tested? Heck no. There shouldn't be. Now, everything we talk about here, right, will always have exceptions, such as the case in life, right? 99.999% everything needs to be tested and then deployed. Will there be some wild times where, the sky is falling down and, all the holy buildings are burning and we need to deploy and we can't do it? Yeah, they might be, right? And in those cases, and I'll tell you this across with my own experience, it's happened to me, where we have had, like, again, skies falling down, buildings are on fire, the women and the children, hide the women and the children kind of thing. And they've tried to force me to approve a release because, again, nothing gets to the deployment phase until QA gives it the thumbs up, right? And I've refused to do it. And I got like a lot of crap for it too, because it's hard when your boss's boss comes to you and be like, "Hey, we need this," and I'm like, "Sorry, I can't approve it because if it comes back and the whole thing burns down, then you're gonna come on me and be like, oh, why didn't QA catch it?" Okay, so this is the whole process. Okay, and I want you to make sure you have a good understanding of the entire process from the ideation, from where it begins, to the requirements being gathered and the customers being engaged, to the design portion on how we're going to do this, what technology are we going to use, And then we have the development portion, again, where the coder monkeys do their coding stuff. Then we have the testing phase where the tester monkeys do their testing stuff. And then once everybody gives, is ready to go, everybody says, you know what, we're good enough. We're as close to perfect as we possibly can be. We deploy it to production. We go live. And then after that, we just make sure that we keep the house of cards from falling down in the maintenance phase. Okay. That is the SDLC. Now I'm going to get into more detail right now. But again, do you get the general idea, the big idea right now? Any questions so far about this? Maintenance is part, again, it's a cycle, right? So maintenance can go right back into the requirement section again, and then you start the cycle again. All right, that's what the whole idea of cycle and iteration is cyclical, over and over. When you get to the maintenance phase, you start again from the beginning, which isn't really the beginning because there was no real end, right? Maintenance time is where you continue to work on it. Aloysius, good question. Are QAs basically just part of testing and maintenance? Yes and no. We should be involved pretty much every step of the way once the requirements gathering starts. Because if it's an existing product, we as QAs probably know it as good, or if not better than everyone else on the project. So when someone starts asking you to deliver crazy things, you can tell them, hey, look, our product doesn't have that capability. So that's, we should be involved from the requirements. Like, this is an interview question too, by the way. When should QA get involved in the project? As soon as possible. We should be there right at the top. No, we cannot. We do talk to everybody. I mean, I talk to everyone, but we don't get in the way of the architects, because that their knowledge of the, when they're working, they have free reign because there's no constraints on them, right? It's like it's a green field. No, you don't get fired. You gotta chill, man. Well, I see another question here. After testing, developing again, do we have developers working in both development and testing stages? So the question is, do developers work in the development and testing stages? Well, if they did that, they wouldn't need us, number one. Number two, developers can test their own stuff. You should never let a developer test their own product, their own code, because it's like trying to, pick which one of your kids you love more. You can't, right? It's like, you wrote the thing, it's your baby. How can you say there's anything wrong with it? And as a developer how to make it work. That's why us as QA, we're coming in from the outside. We have no idea what you're doing. We're like, the Huns, at the wall. We're just trying to go out crazy at it, and we have no idea what's on the other side, right? Planning and control. We're gonna get to the planning portion. Don't jump ahead of the. Don't jump the gun quite yet. Just work with me. I mean, sorry, stay with me, and we'll get to the planning portion of it. That's part of our thing today. All right. In a typical development product team, when there is no testing to be done, what will QA be doing, and what would QA be seen as they're really not doing anything? So you're already worried about not having enough work. All right. Just come on. For the most part, you're almost always busy. And the more senior you get and the more downtime you may have, you better start worrying, because you shouldn't be having any downtime. All right. But when there's no testing to be done, there's a myriad of things that need to be done. So you're never just sitting there, twiddling your thumbs. That shouldn't be happening. Does QA review the documents from the requirements level? Yes, and we're going to be getting into it in a little bit. All right. Good questions all around. Almost all good questions. You know how they say there's no stupid questions? Trust me, there are some really stupid questions, but you guys are not asking them. You're asking good questions. Almost all of you, anyways. All right, let's continue on. Again, we're going to go into Don't worry about compiling. We're not. We're not trying to be developers here, right? We'll get to that, all that stuff. What is it about? Which part of the aspect of the project are you? Maybe are you agreeing with me? Are you asking me a question, or is that a comment about we should know about every aspect of the project? Yeah, cool. We're on the same page. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. So again, Takabear is right. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and if I'm not, I apologize. QA should be involved as early as possible. And remember, you're gonna. All right, got it. So when somebody asks you in an interview, how soon should QA be involved? As soon as possible. All right. So now going back to again, I'm gonna do a little bit of repetitiveness and give you a little bit more detail of these these sections of the SDLC, right? The requirements and analysis, right? This is the beginning of any software software development project. Again, all the information and requirements are gathered in order to conceive a concrete expectation of the software product. Again, now that the whole point being, right, is everything is or needs to be documented. And that is extremely important, right? And once again, the requirements gathering portion of it, right, getting the requirements and putting them together is done by the business people, all right, the business side of it. You know how every team in every sport, right, there's a defense and there's an offense, right? Those are usually, like in football, for example, it's completely, there's like 52 people on a team, right? And the defense is basically completely separate from the offense, right? It's kind of like the same idea here. I'll use a few bit of sports analogies in these things, right? So just stay with me. And if sports analogies don't make sense, I got a bunch of this, so don't worry. I'll make sure you get it somehow. So your offense, or let's say your defense, is the business team who goes and finds out what needs to be done, right? And then the offense is your tech team who actually goes and does what needs to be done once they have the game plan, right? So the business people will go and get the requirements, which is the game plan, right? They will write up the plays. It's our job to run the plays, all right, as the tech side of the team, right, as the offense of the team, all right. That's how it starts, all right. Design and research, as I mentioned, once the gathering of the requirements is complete, the next step is the design, right? So the developers and system level architects. Now these are not just regular developers, right? These are not seniors, managers. They're architects. They're up here. They're system architects. They formulate the whole idea, right? Again, the idea is to come up with every part of how the technical side of the work is going to be done. Now QA does not get involved in this process because again, this is beyond our especially when you're a QA engineer, not even an automation engineer, you're not going to get involved in this because you don't have the technical know-how, right? I might get involved because everybody likes my opinion on these things, right? But even with this stuff, I try not to get involved because it is much far beyond my technical abilities, and I will probably be more of a roadblock than helping them out kind of move forward. All right. So again, the design and research portion is we're not a part of every part of the process. We should be though, right? And if you're on a good project, then you will be. But again, it's like, you're not sitting in the coach's office while he's coming up with the plays, right? You should have the information, but you will, again, once the play is written, then you run the play, right? That makes sense. All righty. So that is, all right, I don't need that. That's the design and research portion of it. So first number one, ideation, requirements. Next, the design and the research on, where did other people mess up, and so on and so forth. Then again, the development portion is next, right? This is where the coding starts. This is when the matrix, the code starts falling off the top of the screen. You ever seen those hacker movies when they're like chugging Red Bull and just type in and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna get into this. That's what they do. developers a lot. Okay, there's two ways developers create code. Number one, they'll write it from scratch, right? And they will whatever, you go from wherever. The more senior they are, what they'll do is they'll copy paste code. They'll go on stack trace, they'll go to their old projects that they've worked on before and reuse that code into the new project, make a few tweaks to it, and then use that. And bill you for like a week. All right. So again, it's not to say that they're being sneaky or anything. It's just it's more it's working smarter, not harder, right? If you've already done something, you have an idea on what should be done, you take that and you just adjust it. You just kind of adjust would be the right word, right? Tailor it. You tailor it to your particular project to make sure that it fits here, right? So that's the development portion of it. Now, testing and bug fixing. That's our time, baby. Now, again, our main goal, right, is remember when, and this was maybe in the webinar, maybe it was in the last session, but this is the business and the customer side. This is the development side. This is where we are, right in the middle, right? Our job is to make sure that both worlds understand each other, right? We're kind of like assistant coaches, right? Assistant coaches or defensive and offensive coordinators, right? Head coach, has their own plan. There's the offense and the defensive side, and then there's the assistant coaches or the coordinators that work for each side. We are those guys. We want to make sure that our side of the ball understands what the main goal is, and the main side, and the other side of the team understands what our stuff's going on too, right? So we're trying to get everybody on the same page, right? And that's why we ask a lot of questions. That's why we get, we write our test cases based on whatever the whatever the requirements that are being written or provided, right? Again, the role is to contrast the output with the requirements and identify the issues. Remember when I said someone is giving you the answers to the test, all you have to do is come up with the questions and make sure you get the actual answer that they're looking for. Exactly. That's correct, Ola. That's perfect. Again, we make sure that the software behaves exactly as defined in the requirements. Anything that deviates from the requirement is considered a defect, right? That's our job. Now, you can be super anal retentive about it, right? And that's how you should be, all right? There's a smart man once told me, all right? Actually, that doesn't apply here, so never mind. But the point is, your holy text are the requirements. Whatever, Jesus, whatever, it's made me lose my damn train of thought, bro. That's too much. Come on, man. That's why we need to funds. Okay. So our job is to make sure that, again, the entire team, both sides understand exactly what's going on. I just, I just had flashbacks, and I don't need to remember certain things right in the middle of it, right? And again, it's funny right now because we're all kind of just peers, but yeah, you gotta be careful about that. All right. So that's where we come in. Now, remember, when we're testing, right? Let's kind of reel it back. When we're testing, we're finding bugs, all right? And the way we find bugs is based off the fact that there's something deviating from the requirements, right? The requirement says, A, and it's A minus. Is that right? Is that right or wrong? Exactly. It's incorrect, right? Any deviation from the requirements it needs to be called out. Now, when you do call it out, then it's up to the team to decide whether it really is an issue. All right. But I will always say this, and I want you to take this to heart, because this is how I live my professional life. This is how I've done, and this is how I've made my money and all my jobs. My job is to ask the questions. And I've said this in multiple meetings and arguments and whatever. My job is to ask the question. What the answer is up to you. All right. So I will ask the question, and if it's fine and you're okay with it, and the whole team is okay with it, perfect. But if I ask the question and it brings about a discussion, and we find out some other issues that we didn't even think about before. Boom! I just proved my worth times 10, because we just discovered something that we wouldn't even have thought of, and come down the line, maybe even it might not even be tomorrow, it might not be months from now, it could be years from now, we come across something, and it completely destroys the project or something. Right? That's why we ask questions. Again, I was kidding about the stupid question thing, because our job pretty much is asking every single question, including some very, very silly questions and dumb questions. And I am proud to do it, because again, if me asking stupid questions brings about a discussion that leads to something of substance, then I have proven my worth. Okay. There you go, Dimitri. You're talking. You know what I'm saying? All right. So the question was, if somebody asked about when does QA get involved, is it an interview question? The answer is as soon as possible in the SDLC, in the development life cycle, right? But I mean, not most involved. That's our job. That's what we get paid to do, is the testing phase. That's all we're talking. That's all we're concerned with. All right. Can the tester give advice on programming, or would it be ignored regardless? Depends on if you're an automation engineer, right? If you're a manual QA, then why are you not doing automation if you know so much about code? If you're trying to give advice to developers, right? So stay in your lane, bro. But again, if you have the skills for it, fine. If you think you can do a better job, go for it. But if you don't even know how to do automation, then how can you possibly try to tell a developer what to do? It's like the people that, and I've done my own research. Yeah, well, I've been a doctor for 20 years. It's who are you gonna listen to, right? All right. What if the question is not an error, but on how it's supposed to act? Fatima, good question. Excellent question. We ask the question and the team decides. And in which part of the team decides? The business side. Because why do they decide? Because they have the most exposure to the customer, to our end user, to the people that are going to be using the product. All right, they'll tell us. Cool. So everybody is on the same page about testing and bug fixing. So again, John, that is a whole class session on who do we report to and when do we do it and how do we do it and all that stuff. So you're on the right track. I like it, but we are going to get to it, in a later session in great detail. But I like where your head's at. Now, once your testing is done, so you do the testing, you find bugs, developers fix it, and then they send it back to QA. We retest the issues, make sure that they're fixed, and then next step, deployment. Goes to production, goes live, goes to the customer. All right. That is the main phase. This is where after, again, software is tested and freed from any defects or bugs, it should be ready for deployment. Now, I want to know your guys' opinion on this. What percent of a software do you think is 100% bug-free when it goes to production? Or do you think it has to be completely perfect before it goes out? All right, cool. So you guys are, again, 80%, 25%. That's funny. No software that goes to production will ever be 100% bug-free. That's just not the reality of life. You will always, always, always come across some issue. The goal is whatever issues come up are minor issues because you tested it so well, right? It's not something major like, you're running an e-commerce website where people are ordering things and the buying button is broken, right? That's huge. That's not something. But if it's like, a person that's trying to convert their profile and their marketing selection, their marketing options, whatever they've selected, kind of got rewritten or overwritten, right? Those things are okay. That's a miss, but it's not a major miss. All right. So Fatima said, our job is basically to ask as many questions as possible. That is literally what our job is. Okay. Do we ask customer questions? We never talk to the customers. Most of us will never talk to the customers, Brent. Let me correct that. our customer is the product owner, which is the business people, the business team, right? That's who our customer is. As long as you're doing your job right, being ignored shouldn't matter. Well, again, you're being ignored for something that you shouldn't really be participating in anyways. That's again, that's not a feather in your cap. You're not really doing much there, right? That's just being goofy. But if you again, obviously, if you have some knowledge or information, understanding, then yes. Somebody asked a question about automation earlier. I wanted to answer that. Who asked a question about automation, or what was the question? Oh, if you have some exposure, or you've previously done some coding, or you were a developer or something along those lines, then yes, you can go straight into automation. But if you have no background in IT or tech, then yes, you should go into the manual space first and then get into automation. Even TestPro have a bug when you're trying to do the homework on Mac advice. Yes, again, everything is gonna have it. Like, we're professional testers, and our product has bugs, right? A lot of the times it's just user error. That's definitely possible. Who do the testers communicate with? Everybody, the whole team. Our job is to be on good terms and communication terms with everybody, and I literally mean everybody, from the janitor up to the CEO of the company. It's good to be that personable, sociable, right? But it's also helpful because you might have to sometime go to the CEO and ask them a question, or the CTO or the CFO, right? It's definitely possible. So it's good to have lines of communication open with everybody. Our greatest strength is our communication as far as QAs are concerned. If we have good communication, that puts us at a great advantage in doing our job well. What about HTML and CSS? I know those. Good for you. They're helpful. I'm just kidding. They're definitely helpful. But doesn't necessarily help you with being on the automation space. It gives you a good understanding of how code and stuff is done, and basic structures maybe. But as far as the deep dive stuff, that's a little bit more complex. Usually it's Java or C++ or something, or C#, .NET framework, all that stuff. Majority of it is in Java. All right, cool. So that's the deployment part. That goes out to production deployment. This is the final stage. If you know basic Java, then you're ahead of the course, and you should probably start doing automation. And you should probably take the TestPro automation course, which I'm going to introduce to you guys today. So yeah, stick around for that until later, and I'll give you that option if that's if you're interested in that. Alrighty, so the final stage of the project, like I mentioned, is when all the hard work. Okay, let me clarify that automation thing. I'm just gonna introduce you to the program. I'm not gonna show you anything automation related. All right, that's not my wheelhouse. All right, sorry if that confused you guys. So the final stage of the project, it goes live, used by the target audience. It will literally be your proudest moment and your most scariest time, because like when you leave the house for like you're going on a trip. God, why am I talking about trips? My day was all screwed up. So, but let's say you're leaving on a trip, and you're like, in your mind, you're always gonna think like, oh crap, did I leave the stove on? Did I lock the door? Are the windows open? Right? That's the feeling you get when your project is going to deployment and it's going live. You're like, oh, did I test everything? Did I test this? Oh, did I do this? Oh no. But when it goes and it's coming back, and you're getting good feedback, that's a great moment of pride for us, right? As QA. Now, in the maintenance and updates, again, this is where the cycle starts all over again. As soon as a product goes live, it marks the beginning of the maintenance phase, right? This includes post-production processes such as enhancements and fine-tuning the system. Again, there is always going to be issues. Right now, the breadth, the length and depth of those issues, that's the most important key. Now, if you're a good QA, right, your issues, especially once you go to production, will be minor. And I don't mean minor as in like very, very tiny. they may be like, decent sized issues, might be decent sized defects, but they're not showstoppers. They're not complete blockers. They're not critical problems. They're not critical bugs, right? Um, but in this phase is where continually you are going about in the and adding new things and adding new features and fixing old things and making changes and making your product better, optimizing it, streamlining it, right? Improving the workflow. All right. The SDET comes in the same portion as as us in testing. Only thing is they're actually writing their automation code while we're writing our test cases, kind of thing. All right. So they're automating it while we're doing the same thing, but we're doing it in a manual way. All right. But their purpose of an SDET is to, again, create these tests that are repeatable, are runnable daily, nightly, weekly, to make sure that there aren't any issues that are minor issues or not minor issues that are that are existing issues that can be found if you repeat the same things over and over again, right? If everything works and the test excuse me, if everything works and the tests continue to pass like they're supposed to, that means everything that's new that's being created and added hasn't broken anything old, right? So again, they just do a slightly fancier version of what we do and get paid a little bit more than we do. So it's just kind of like there's levels to this, and that's just the next. So now we're gonna move into the methodology. Everybody understand? Have a complete understanding of the SDLC. Any questions? Now is the time, because we will no longer be going back to this because we got to move on to the next subject. I mean, I can go back when we have a question. SDET stands for Software Development Engineer in Test. So which you're basically a developer that does testing in a sense. You're doing a lot of coding. All right, cool. Everybody looks good. Everybody sounds good. Let's keep now. What is Agile? Actually, let me see something real quick. Okay, we're a little bit behind, but we'll be fine. Give me a second, guys. I want to make sure that we are not too far behind, because then I gotta speed it up. And I'm not really gonna speed it up, but I'm just gonna kind of take it up a notch. Oh shit, we're really behind. All right, so what is Agile? It is an iterative approach to project management and software development, right? So what it does is basically, instead of having or delivering everything on what's considered a big bang launch, right? Everything is done and then it's put out. Agile is done in pieces. So my best way of describing it is there's two types of methodologies, right? Which is, hold on, I'll get to it. There's one called waterfall and one called agile. We work in agile. So the way that I'd like to describe waterfall is this has nothing to do with politics, right? But it's like building a wall, right? Waterfall method, the methodology of waterfall is to basically put all the bricks together, right? And all of a sudden you just stand up the entire wall together. Whereas agile is literally putting one brick at a time, making sure that that brick is completely perfect and putting it up. And then you build your entire wall one brick at a time, right? Now, why do we do that? Because in the waterfall method, if you have an issue, let's say all of a sudden that there was, you missed a brick somewhere, or that you created something that was your requirements were off, right? Or that you said that you were gonna, that there's maintenance or issues that you need to address, right? You have to work on the entire thing at once. Whereas in agile, since we're only doing small portions, the risk factor is much lower, right? If you put up a whole entire wall, what if your measurements were wrong, right? What if the customer was asking you the wrong thing? The thing with waterfall is you don't show the customer the product until it's already completely done in your mind, and they have no insight. They don't know what exactly was done until the whole thing goes big bang, boom, here you are, right? Um, Whereas agile, we take a brick, we make it, we make sure it's perfect. We demo it to the customer. We say, hey, does this brick look good to you? They're like, yep. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, we do that. We develop, we test, we retest, we fix bugs. Then we demo it to the customer. Hey, does this brick look good? Yep, perfect. Keep on moving. So we put one piece by piece. We put up a wall. Boom. You know, the ocean is filled one drop at a time, right? So why do we talk about waterfall? Because every single software that you've ever really used for the lab from 10 years plus ago was developed using waterfall, like Windows or the original iOS stuff, right? These are like the forefathers. It is the ancient way. This is the way. If you guys have ever seen that show. So why choose agile, right? Um, Teams choose agile because so they can respond to the marketplace. Ooh, another thing I didn't mention with waterfall. When you start a waterfall, let's say you start a project in waterfall, it takes you 2.5 years to develop, right? Let's say 2 years to develop. Well, by the time 2 years pass, technology is ever expanding. Imagine, just look at your phones from 2 years ago to now, right? Or your laptops or your tablets. The difference to what 2 years makes in technology. With agile, since you haven't really kind of committed to just one rigid approach. You can always kind of make your changes, right? The team is always collaborating. The team is always talking. With waterfall, it's everybody is in their separate silos, right? Everybody's in their separate areas. Nobody ever really talks to each other. The communication is low, right? And then most importantly, the customers are not as engaged, right? The end user, because those are the most important people. Those are the people that you need to address. Those are the people you need to please, in a sense. Agile would actually take less time because you're not spending, you're not wasting any time, and you're getting constant collaboration and constant feedback from your customer, the business, the developers, all that stuff. Agile is much more efficient use of your time. All right. Again, so they can respond to changes in the marketplace or feedback from the customer quickly without derailing a year's worth of plans. Again, if you're doing waterfall, you're making huge long year ahead plans, and whereas agile, continuously you're making small increments, you're making small iterations, and you're making progress in that way. Right now, if you have a project, again, if you do waterfall, you put up this huge wall. There's a bunch of issues that come across, right? It's going to take you another 6 months, 8 months, 9 months to fix all these issues, because again, it's never just one issue. One issue leads to an issue, to an issue, to a defect, to a defect, to a defect, right? A fix of a bug here can put out a bug down here, right? Where's my hand? Right here, right? Can be anywhere. So the way with agile, we're continuously testing and retesting and making sure that the integration portion of it is well, and it's less risk because they're smaller pieces instead of one big giant chungus. It's my son likes using that word. All right. So again, it is to keep it is to keep costs down. It is to make sure that the customers are engaged and they know what's going on. And yes, John, you're correct. Chungus, Google it. All right. So that's agile, right? Again, the difference is in agile, you are constantly defining, building, and releasing. Whereas in waterfall, it is a big defining, right? It's a big conversation. Then it's a giant build where everybody just sits there and just does the building. Then the testing happens again, because they don't give anything to testing like you do with agile. You continuously develop and you push it to testing. They only give you completed things, right? That slows down the process. Then finally you release and you get value. You start making some money off of it, right? The customer starts getting something, or the company starts making money, and so on and so forth. Whereas agile, as you can see, the more time passes, the higher that risk becomes, right? So now, whereas in agile, you're constantly defining, building, and releasing, right? So you don't even let the risk get that high because you're constant. There is some um um payback in a sense, right? There's some value that they're getting out of it, right? So that is the idea of behind using agile versus waterfall. Another kind of example is like this, right? Agile is, you kind of slowly develop a bit of a little bit of a raft. Then you add a bit of a machine, you add a bit of a motor to it and some, whatchamacallit, what do you call that, dude? Handling, I guess, right? And you get a little cruiser. Then you add a bit more size to it, add a bigger engine to it, some sails or some other pieces of machinery. You get a bigger fishing boat, and eventually you turn it into a yacht, right? It again, slow increments. You start off with at least you're in the water here, right? Whereas in waterfall, you are just gonna build the entire yacht, and it can't even get to the water until the yacht is actually built. All right, does that kind of make sense? Waterfall is pretty old school, but the thing is, even to this day, people will use what's called a agile fall, right? Because they'll try to think that they're agile, but they're still in the waterfall mindset. But the more agile your company is, the better. The definition of the word agile is the ability to move quickly, right? To react quickly. So if the market changes all of a sudden or something changes that you need to address or you need to adapt, boom, you can do it in agile in a couple of weeks time. Is waterfall used at all today? Yeah, rarely, but in legacy style old school companies for sure. Well, why discuss waterfall? Because again, you need to know where you come from, to know where you're going. It's like, why do we study history in high school? That stuff already happened, right? Same idea. Yeah, some companies still actually use it too. Yeah, that's true. All right. Yes, these are questions that come up in interviews. What is the what methodology are you using? Where we're using agile, or what do you think about waterfall? I think it's a little bit old school. I think it's a little bit it might be a bit outdated at this point, right? That's the kind of idea. But again, the idea is to understand both aspects. All right. So now within agile, we have what's considered Scrum. Now, yes, John, that's correct. That's the technical term. Big Chungus, not just Chungus. All right. How can we know what the company we're applying uses? You don't. That's why we ask questions, right? Always with the questions. That is extremely important. So moving on to the Scrum portion. So again, Scrum is a framework to help the team work better. Again, it comes from rugby, for those of you that are aware. Again, the Scrum process, again, remember I said everything revolves around process and what's the word I'm looking for? Documented processes basically is my point, right? Everything is kind of planned. That's what I was looking for. Everything is planned so that way there are no surprises. And even if when there are surprises, you can deal with them because you're working within the plan. All right. Again, it's like a game plan. If somebody on the other team is all of a sudden doing extremely well, you didn't even think about them, then you have to start adjusting your game plan to focus on that one person or focus on that problem that might be occurring. All right. Again, it helps you learn through experiences. It helps you self-organize, while working whatever problem, and reflect on your wins at the end of the sprint and to make sure you're continuously improving. Mickey, that's correct. If you're gonna fail, make sure you fail fast. But even if in waterfall, if you fail, you're not gonna fail until the very end, which is where it really becomes problematic. All right. So I feel like I might be going a little bit fast. All right. Am I going a little bit fast? Or are you guys kind of following what the Scrum process is? Okay. So remember, the SDLC is the big umbrella, right? Underneath it is Agile. Underneath that is the Scrum, right? And inside of the Scrum is the sprint. That's how this works. It cascades down, right? Now, do you guys get it? Scrum is, again, it is a idea more than a thing. Oh God. Yeah, Scrum is an idea more of an actual software, right? But do you guys understand like the umbrella thing I'm talking about? Again, it's SDLC, and then what falls after SDLC? Methodology, Agile, right? Then within Agile falls the Scrum. Within Scrum falls the sprint. All right. Now, we're going to be going over, I think, just grooming and planning today, right? But this is how a sprint works, okay? So within Scrum, you have, what is a sprint? A sprint is a short run, a short, fast run, right? So within Agile, you have what are called sprints, which is, again, putting that, remember when I talked about one brick at a time? Well, you have 2 weeks to build one brick, okay? That's where I was leading to with all that information, right? So that's why Agile is, again, faster and better, because you have 2 weeks at a time. You're building, you're developing something and testing it and retesting it and fixing it and making sure that it's complete before moving on. All right. So that is, again, falls under the Agile methodology. And our sprint, it also is an organizational tool, right? You are using the sprint as a time box, right? You have 2 weeks. Sprints can be anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks, right? You prepare stuff, right? Which is set together in a product backlog. A product backlog is a group of items or a group of requirements, right? There could be, again, they could be 100 of them, they could be 10 of them, they could be 50 of them, right? That group, that backlog. So a group of work items together is called a backlog. And a product backlog is all the requirements or functionality or features that are sitting there waiting to be worked on. So in the beginning of a sprint, we'll take from the top whatever product, backlog item you want to work on in that sprint and pull it into the sprint, which will be called the sprint backlog, or it will be the sprint items, right? So once we pick and choose what we're going to work on in this sprint, which can be anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks, we go through the entire iteration, right? We go through the entire iteration of that particular sprint. We do the requirements, we do the development, we do the testing, we do the bug fixes, and try to get it to release. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to get released to production every single sprint, right? It'll just be released as in there is a finalized version somewhere that can be, again, it can be for the customer or it can be just housed somewhere, right? Just waiting to be worked on or used. And then at the end, you got a potentially shippable product increment. Again, you've got a piece of software, a compilation of code, a code block that's sitting there, or an application or something that's at the end that's waiting, that's ready to be used. Now, again, if you're just at the beginning of a project, right, this increment is not going to be much. Sometimes you'll go through an entire sprint and all you've really done is just database stuff, right? It's just database related. Okay, so in order for you to do this, to have a product backlog ready, you do what's called a product backlog grooming or refinement, right? Now, this is usually a meeting, which can involve majority of the people on a team, but a lot of the times it only involves the the development manager, or the development lead, the project manager, most of the people from the business side, the testing lead, or maybe if you're lucky, the whole testing team. And that is where you discuss what you're going to clean up the backlog, right? You're going to groom the backlog. And again, I'm going to get into a little bit more detail in the next couple of slides, but right now I'm just going to give you a quick introduction, right? Once you've groomed it and cleaned it up, then you have the planning meeting at the beginning of the sprint. The planning is when you pick from that backlog of items that you've previously groomed and you pull that into the sprint itself. And if you've already groomed it, you know how much time it's going to take, you know what the estimates are, you know what the size of the work that needs to be done, etc. Right? So then you can adjust, you can pick and choose the amount of work that's going to be best, or that's going to be perfect for you here. All right. Every day. So within the sprint itself, right, you've got a grooming meeting, you've got a planning meeting, right? These happen. We'll talk about them when they happen. But then you have what's called a daily stand-up, right? Which is a morning meeting. It happens every day where everybody talks about what they worked on, or what they will be working on, and if they have any issues. Again, we'll talk about that at a different next class. And then finally, we have a demo and retro or retrospective. Those are like the final stages before the product is kind of released out. Again, we're only concerned about grooming and planning for today. The rest of the stuff we're going to be talking about, I think, I'm pretty sure until next session on Thursday. All right. So again, what is a sprint? It is a short period of time when a Scrum team works to complete a set amount of work. Usually it can be between 1 and 4 weeks. The number that I have always worked with is 2 weeks. Can they be shorter? Yes, they can. Can they be longer? Yes, they can. Do they usually go longer than 4 weeks? They should not. But I will say this, and it's just an example. The methodology, the agile methodology is a tool, right? You can use it to best suit your organization however you'd like. Now, you can either, again, an example would be an axe is a tool. You can either use it to build a house, or you can use it to commit, mass murder, right? You can kill a bunch of people with it. It's up to you how you use it to the best of your ability, or to suit your project. I don't know what your project could be in that case, but an example, right? It's there for you to use how it's best suited for your company, okay, and your project. Hey guys, 1 second. Give me just a second. All righty. So that's the sprint. Does everybody understand what a sprint is? What's expected of you in a sprint? So a Scrum team would be your entire team, right? Your business people, which are either called BAs, which is business analyst. I'll send that out. BA equals business analyst, or POs, which are product owners. Product owners. Then you have your QA and your developers, right? That's the Scrum team. And there can be multiple Scrum teams at the same time, but we're not going to talk about multiple Scrum teams right now. We're just assuming for the time, for right now, there's only one Scrum team, your Scrum team. Okay? That has a BA and a PO. If you look at the chat, you'll see what those mean. And you have your QAs and your developers. All right? So the sprint begins. You've got 2 weeks to deliver something. All right, that's what the sprint is within your Scrum, within Agile, within the SDLC, right? Now, what is planning, right? What do we want to do? What are we going to work on? this is where we define and pick the amount of work that's going to be done in a sprint. So sprint planning is what we plan to do for this sprint. Very simple. Remember when I told you guys in one of the webinars, when you find out what we really do, you're going to be like, we really get paid for this. So just remember, this is that. Sprint planning is planning for the sprint. Very simple, right? Again, it details the risk. It talks about the cost and the resources required. We discuss who's working, who's not working, who's available, who's not available, right? What the risks are, right? We discuss the risks every 2 weeks for the next 2 weeks, or the previous 2 weeks we talk about. If there's something that we see that keeps happening over and over again, we make sure we address that immediately, right? That's the advantage of being agile. We do create or specify or clean up the requirement specification documentation, right? All the stuff that was in the backlog previously. So in the backlog grooming, when you're grooming those, the stories, the backlog items, right? The whole team isn't part of that conversation, right? It's only a select group of people that try to clean it up as best as possible. Now in the sprint planning meeting, the entire team is there. And this is where everybody discusses and says, okay, this is what we can or cannot do, and this is how we will not do it. All right. So that's what the planning is. Now going to the, what do we do during the planning portion, right? Well, again, when we're part of this meeting, and we should always be part of the meeting of the sprint planning, especially the QAs have to be part of it, right? Because we're required to be there because we're going to be the ones testing this particular thing. So number one, the feasibility of the requirements. Like, is this even possible? If somebody's like, okay, the customer is asking for a red line, but they want it to be blue. And you're going to sit there and you're going to look around like, what the? Like, you want a red line, but you want it to be blue? That's not possible. It's either a red line or a blue line. Pick one. All right. That's very in a simple, funny, attempted funny way. That is what the basic thing is of what we do when the requirements kind of given to us, right? Next thing is to properly express functional requirements and review the gap between features so they can be analyzed as early as possible. Whatever you're wanting to be done, whatever the customer wants to be done, is it even possible, right? That's something that we know, because as QAs, we are in the product every single day, testing nonstop, right? So we know every nook and cranny, and we know how everything works. So we make sure that if there's the requirements don't make sense, or they are contradicting one another, right? Then we need to bring that up. Now, just remember, a lot of people kind of get a little worried in this situation. Like, oh, when we first start the job, are we really going to know how to do this? Anytime you start a project, you're not going to know right off the bat. Every project is unique. So you will learn to do this the more time you spend on a project, because then you will understand the project and the application in more detail and more depth. Okay. So don't be worried about that, about not knowing what to do in these meetings. In the first 3 to 6 months, you're just gonna shut your face and sit in there for the most part, and do the testing and count the money, right? The next thing is risk analysis and forecasting, right? Yes, Dimitra. So risk analysis forecasting is you're sitting there and forecasting. Number one is, how can we do this? Can it be done? What's the risk of us taking on this particular feature or this particular backlog item, right? Again, as QA, if we're stopping work on something or we're blocking something from proceeding, then you will know, again, as being the user of the product on a daily basis, what can cause what issues. All right. Establish the environment requirements. What do we need in order for us to test? Do we need, do we need to test it on a new browser? Do we need to test it on a new, what do you call it? Device? Do we need to test it on different devices? Do we need to test it on different operating systems? We will, again, be establishing that in this conversation, in the planning. Like, oh, hey, I need this, I need that. Oh, you want me to test it on an iPad? Okay, well, we don't have an iPad. We either need an actual iPad or we need browser stack. What do you want to do? And then you prepare the higher level test plan, including the risk and tools used in the project. Again, what exactly we're going to be doing, how we're going to do it, and then identify the type of testing that needs to be carried out. And what kind of testing do we need to do? Again, this is something that is not necessarily spoken in public per se, right? You're not it's not up for discussion for the most part. It's usually within the testing team. But 9 times out of 10, you will already know what type of testing needs to be done, right? That's just the whole project is like that, right? It's the whole project is a web-based application. Well, we're gonna have to do cross-browser testing. We're gonna test it on multiple devices, mobile phones, tablets, all that stuff, and that's already decided way ahead, right? Instead of every 2 weeks. Will you get an iPad or a tablet most of the time? Not most of the time, but sometimes, yeah. I worked for companies that we've had, bunch of devices. Other companies don't want you to have devices. What they do is give you what's called browser stack. They'll give you, I'll show you what browser stack is right now. So this is browser stack. You can test on, again, any iPhone from iPhone 5 all the way to iPhone 13. You can test it on any iPad from iPad 2 all the way to the latest iPad, any Windows device, any Mac device, right? Android device. Like, look at how many Android devices are on here. So literally, yeah, you're not gonna have to buy your own stuff. They'll give it to you. So that's another option available, right? You got to get creative in this stuff. It's not just gonna. It's called Browser Stack. If you guys want to check it out, it gives you 10 free minutes. After that, it costs money. Don't need to buy it. I think you might be getting it as part of your course. So hold off on doing anything with Browser Stack. Go play with it if you want, but don't try to do much with it. So planning in startups. Actually, let me go back to this. Do you guys understand what role we play in the planning portion of the sprint? Any questions about the planning meeting? Again, who's in the planning meeting? Who's in the planning meeting? No, don't just say we. There you go. Daniela, correct. Mickey, correct. Jeffrey, correct-ish. Jonathan, you know what the right answer is. You're just being a smart ass. Everybody's getting it. Yes, we are the team. We are the world. Yep. All right, cool. You guys got it. So that's what's on the team and the entire scrum. Yeah, you could even say the entire scrum team, Cynthia. Yeah, that's right. So, but yeah, it's okay to be specific. It shows So, if you're in a startup company, if you end up working at a startup, how do they do the planning? They kind of don't. Startups are notorious for just kind of, if you've ever seen, what's that show? Silicon Valley. It's kind of like that, right? It's just kind of a free-for-all. People just doing all kinds of weird, crazy stuff. People working all kind of crazy, weird hours. Yes, you could say ad hoc a bit, for sure. You could say ad hoc a bit, but you would still have to do your formal stuff, but everybody else might be a little bit more ad hoc. Yeah. Again, they're just pushing tickets, and as things come, they fix them and they put them out. Right? There's no planning rules that are being followed, but that's very specific to startups. And honestly, startups have gotten smarter now because they understand that there needs to be some structure, right? Just having a free for all doesn't always work unless you're like, yeah, Facebook was pretty much the most major startup ever, right? So keep that in mind. Now, now refinement, grooming, right? So we know what planning is. Now, what is grooming? So when we've created our user stories and prioritized them in the backlog, and you put the most valuable items at the top, the most higher priority goes on the top. And what you want to do is then you go a little bit deeper and groom the actual product. product backlog item, right? So remember, the backlog is a bunch of little items that are there to be worked on, and then we prioritize them. Um, Correct, John. That's right. So the backlog is just a bunch of items in a. They may not be in order, and you would use your grooming meetings or your refinement meeting to put it in a prioritized order and clean it up, and specify all that stuff. Yo, man, who is this? All right. So the wish list is there. So the backlog itself, right, is just a bunch of crap that's just in there. It's just like any idea you can come up with, just throw it in there. And then in the backlog meeting, you pull them up one at a time and say, okay, does this make sense? Can this even be worked on? Didn't we just do this? Right? And blah, blah, blah. So you're doing the grooming in that session. What exactly are you doing? Right? Again, it's an open discussion between the dev team and the product owner and the QA team most of the time. Again, stories are discussed so you can get a better understanding of what is needed, right? What functionality are we going to do? What exactly are we trying to deliver? Now, this includes any kind of design considerations, any integrations, any expected user interactions. Again, anything that needs to be done. That's what's discussed here, right? How we're going to do it. Now, again, since the entire team is not involved, you don't necessarily get a full 100% complete cleanup. The complete and finalized version of the backlog item is done when? Yeah, that's right. It's one person. That's it. For shame. But well done. Yes, it's the planning. The planning is where the finalized version of the backlog items is done. Now, if you've heard me use the word backlog item multiple times, there's a reason, because they're called backlog items. This is a technical term that we use, right? So it's not just a work item, or it's not just a something. It is a backlog item, right? It's a backlog user story, backlog item, requirements, documents, whatever, right? Requirements, even, you could say, right? These are actual pieces of these are pieces of documentation that are used. They are groomed, and then they're pulled into a particular sprint during planning. All right. So what we do in grooming, again, is if there isn't an item in there, we will create a new user story to respond to any kind of newly discovered needs. You remove older stories that, again, are no longer relevant, because, again, there could be 100 in there. So what you created 3 months ago is at this point no longer valid, because we've maybe changed the entire scope of the project. The project is going in a whole different direction now, right? You review the items in the backlog. Again, we've talked about this now, right? You clean it up, you discuss it, you provide estimates. Now, again, this estimate you also provide during planning, but the planning estimates are usually the entire team. This is just a preliminary estimate, but you do give an estimate during backlog, during grooming, right? What is an estimate? An estimate is how long do we think it will take the team to do this? Who is the team? The development and the QA. Don't worry if this is kind of not making quite exact sense just yet. We'll get into more detail on this, but I just want you to understand the idea of what happens here. Grooming like gossip? Nope. Don't. It's more formal and more planned and more structured than that. Why do we discuss grooming after planning? Because it's a cycle. Glooming. God, I can't keep saying glooming. Grooming and planning are what comes first, chicken or the egg. Well, grooming happened last week for this planning session, but then the next grooming session is happening for the next planning session, for the next grooming session is happening for the next planning session, and so on and so forth, right? So then we also, in the grooming session, we're prioritizing the stories, right? We're moving them up or down depending on, what we're going to discuss in the following planning meeting. Also, what we do is we split user stories that may be too big, right? If you have a giant chunk, a big chungus piece of functionality that you want to do at one time, and it doesn't make any sense that you're not going to get it done in 2 weeks time, you break it down into smaller pieces, right? So again, the famous saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you're taking out smaller bites, so that you're able to, again, eat it. All right. And again, we move the items to the top of the backlog that are ready to deliver, right? Or that are ready for delivery for the planning, right? Excuse me 1 second. So does everybody understand the grooming portion of this conversation as well? So what comes first, grooming or planning? Whoever said grooming or whoever said planning, you're both right and you're both wrong. The cycle, neither, both, either. Right? One after the other. Yeah, just remember, so they're both meetings. Now, how often do you have planning or grooming? How often would you have planning in a sprint? How many times will you have a planning meeting in a sprint? Correct, Evelyn. Dimitri, I don't know, wrong. Nah, okay. So, no, not the sprint itself. The planning meeting happens once in a sprint at the beginning of the sprint, right? Because you're planning for what you're working on the next 2 weeks in that sprint, right? So why would you need to have that meeting again? You've already planned it and you've decided what you're going to work on. Now it's your time to deliver. Now, what about grooming? How often would we have grooming in a sprint? In a 2 week sprint, let's say. Sorry, let me clarify that. How often would we have grooming in a 2 week sprint? So what it usually happens is grooming is usually done at least once a sprint, but majority of the time it's twice in a sprint, right? So it's like Monday you'll start with your planning, Thursday you'll have your grooming, the following Thursday you'll have grooming again, right? And then the Monday after that is the new sprint starts, right? So you're constantly doing your grooming to make sure that stuff that's coming in, yes, typically weekly, yes, it can, but can you have it more? Yes. Can you have it less? Yes. But it is a pretty much an absolute that you should have it every sprint. Now, will there be times where you've already done such a great job grooming that you don't have to have them weekly? You might have them like once a month. Sure. Grooming is not changing planning. What? Clarify what you're asking. If a sprint is 4 weeks, again, not necessarily, Brent, right? It could be every 2 weeks, or it could be every couple. It could be a couple of grooming sessions in a 4 week sprint, or it could be weekly for sure, right? Again, these are tools, right? They will adjust these meetings according to how it works best for your project and where you are in the project. Yeah, after grooming, you haven't decided what you're gonna work on, right? So the planning is where you decide what's going to be worked on. So the grooming is just you getting ready to kind of attack it on the day of the planning. Who determines how many grooming sessions? The team. Right. All right, guys, just one thing. Just remember, when you guys are typing in all caps, that means you're yelling. Just a little thing about, internet etiquette, I guess, in a sense. Please be aware of that, because if you start working and you start typing your responses in all caps, people will think you're yelling at them. Don't forget. All righty. Okay, so feels like everybody's got a decent understanding of this as well. So now in the grooming, right, we do what's called a story point. We give the backlog items story points. right? How much effort, it's okay. How much effort is it going to take? How much time and effort and how many resources is it going to take to get us to complete this? Now, resources, when it comes to tech and IT, always means people. How many resources do we have? How many people do we have? Okay. Again, each story is given depending on the difficulty or the complexity or how large it is, the story point is given to it to assign a number to how difficult it could be. Now, the way that it works is, one story point could be, again, this is the definition that's up here, but in your company and everywhere that I've ever worked is a little bit different, right? There, it goes by, excuse me, geez, it goes by the Fibonacci sequence, and this is actually wrong. It's not really the Fibonacci sequence in the sense it goes 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and 20, and it can go 40, and it can be 100. But when it's a 40 or 100, that means it needs to be broken down. It's way too big. A 20 even is this. Ignore this number here. These are the numbers you want to focus on. A 20 usually means it's going to take an entire sprint. That's what a 20 means, right? Anything. Now, it doesn't mean that number doesn't mean the number of hours, right? It's just a measurement or a point that we choose as far as what it's going to be, what size it's going to be, or what it takes. Not days, not minutes, not hours. It's not a direct correlation to that. It is just about a size of the particular backlog item. Think of it in the sense of t-shirt sizes. Is this a small? Is this a medium or a large or an XL? Right? That's how we decide what exactly is going to be or what we're going to size it. Okay? Does that make a little bit more sense? And that usually makes it clearer for people. So a small would be a 1, 2, or a 3, right? A medium would be between a 5 and an 8. A large would be 13 to 20, and then anything above that is just an extra large, and too big. This is the system that's used, but the way that it's structured for most companies, it differs. And the way you will find out is by working at that company. You'll see that in planning and how people are providing estimates, and then you kind of, warm your way into it. All right. So does everybody understand the way that the story points system works? Again, it's Fibonacci sequence 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 20, 40, 100. All right. So that's it for today. That was what we're going to go over. Well done. Thank you for sticking around. Good job. Excellent stuff. Your homework for today is to practice the daily Scrum meeting. Now, in the Scrum meeting there's 3 questions you need to answer, okay? And that is, what in the hell? How did they screw this up? Okay, so yeah. So we'll go over this for right now. And then, yeah. So there's 3 questions you need to answer in a Scrum. What did you do today? What did you do yesterday? And are you blocked on anything? Again, what did you do today? What did you do yesterday? And are you blocked? Okay. Any blockers. The blockers could be, there is a bug that's stopping me from being able to log into my application. Fatigue is not a bug. Fatigue is just a personal problem. Right. So anything that is, there's like, oh, fatigue, you got a blocker of fatigue, drink some Red Bull. I don't like Red Bull. I'm a Monster guy, but you get the point. Yeah, right now you're just making up a scenario, like make up a scenario in the sense of the course. Oh, I didn't have access to LMS. That could be a blocker, right? Yeah, blocked is, you're stuck at something. Okay. All right, so that's your homework for tonight. We're gonna go over it. So I want you guys to remind me. We're gonna go over Scrum Poker next time. We've run out of time today. Okay, so Thursday, please let me know. Please remind me, and I'll go over the rest of the stuff because we had to kind of, again, the Scrum meeting this is the 3 questions, right? What did you do yesterday? What will you do today? And do you have any blockers? All right. What did I you do yesterday? I was working on prepping up today's presentation. What am I gonna do today? Today I was supposed to go on a trip overseas. And do I have any blockers? Yes. The stupid airline. That's my blocker. All right. So that's my update for today. Right. That's my Scrum. That's my daily stand up kind of status update. Right. All right. So we're again all this stuff we're gonna go over. Again, today is the second of our. So if you've already been, if you're part of the course already, you don't have to worry about this next portion. This is related to all the people that are again are joining us either for the first time or second time or a part of the free week. Stick around. The next slide is related to automation. So if you're interested in that, I would stick around as well. For everybody else, thank you guys for today. Good job. Well done. Great questions. I will see you on Thursday. Do your homework and be good. And I'll see you then. I'm going to give these guys about 30 seconds to everyone else. And then we will jump into this portion. Now, again, you all are aware the cost of the program is now $22.49, right? The homework is due by Thursday. Any questions before you guys are out, please ask them now, and then we can actually do them afterwards. Okay, yeah, take time. Thanks, Brian. Annapurna, thank you. I appreciate that. See, when I said it in the webinar, I wasn't lying. I'm good at explaining this stuff. See you, John. All right, so it seems like nobody has any questions. In the meantime, for those of you again that have not been part of the course or haven't purchased the course yet, this is how our course is going to be. Today was obviously the second session. It is the actual classes. This is not just part of the little free whatever. This is this is part of the course material. All right. So please be aware. Again, what's included in the course is again like we did today. Today was mostly theory, right? We didn't really do much practice. We will be doing practice in the next session. All this slides and all these things, the recording for this course, again, everything is live. But the recordings are usually available immediately in LMS, which you should have access to at this point. And if you don't, please get in touch with the admission team. Again, all this presentations and everything are in LMS. It's all available to you there. Again, every lesson is just like this. We're going to continue on doing these lessons exactly like this. Again, the questions you ask, the questions that are being asked, etc. It's part of the course. I like answering them. I actually take a break in the middle of teaching just to answer the questions. I am going to be teaching at least the next 6 sessions, 5 or 6 sessions. And again, another part of this is obviously the interview prep that you're going to be doing, as I've mentioned during the course, during the class today. If I purchase a course tonight, would I be a part of this session? I mean, you are part of this session already. But the LMS items that are going to be available to you, there isn't much really just quite yet, because again, we're just learning the beginning, the foundational stuff. So you haven't missed out on anything yet, really, unless you weren't here today. If you're here today, then you're picking up the good stuff, right? Again, if you have access to Slack, you're aware of how the whole process works, the communication with us, with each other, etc. The tools and tech we haven't really gotten to yet, again, because we are just setting the foundation, right? This is the base of the ideas of how to become a QA engineer. This is where we build up from. The projects that are going to be available to you, right, is going to be, again, we're going to be testing them once we get into the actual testing portion of it. Right now, again, I'm just setting up the basic understanding of how this works and what exactly we're doing and what is QA and what is software development. And again, as I mentioned previously, those of you that come with no background is ideal for me because I can explain to you everything from scratch. And that's the biggest, I think, my biggest strength in this whole thing, right? You do get a certificate of completion at the end of the course. You get, again, the teachers are available to you um, to answer any questions. Again, I'm in the Slack channel all the time. Dennis, Azad, all the other teachers are always there to answer those questions. Technical support is always there as well. Um, as part of the course, you do also get 3 live 30-minute one-on-one sessions for interview prep, resume prep, and mock interviews. Okay. Um, that is with you and an instructor. You guys sit together for 30 minutes at a time in 3 separate meetings, and you figure out how to prep your resume, if there's anything that needs to be changed, updated, fixed, whatever. Second or third is preparing you for the interview and also doing the mock interview. There's, for the most part, I've always only ever done 3, and I think for the most part, it's always helpful. If you want to do more, you can pay for individual mentorship lessons, but you have 3 included in the cost of the program, 2249, right? Um, Agile teams, the teams are going to be assigned the longer we get into the program, into the boot camp, because you will have, group-based projects in a sense. It won't be like, working in a group that you have to rely on people or anything. You'll just be doing your part as part of the team, right? So that's kind of the idea of introducing you to how the whole process works. Brendan, I don't know what the payment plan is like. If you're interested, scan the QR code, set up an appointment with the admissions team. They'll tell you exactly what length and the amount, because it all depends on how you want to break it down, right? Um, this will be the last week that we add students, right? Thursday will be or the end of this week will be the end of just adding students, period. Um, I have had students in different countries take the program, so being in a different state should be no problem. Um, Again, you have job placement assistance, like I mentioned, the meetings, the information that we're giving you, the resume information we're going to give you, the interview prep information we're going to give you. That's all part of the same um, course dues, right? The bootcamp dues. There is a 1-year money back guarantee. It has to be a year of active searching. What that means, we can tell you specifically. You need to get in touch with the admissions team. They will let you know. You are allowed a free repeat of the entire course. Let's say you did the entire course, now you want to come back and do it again, or you missed something, or you want to do something special or whatever, come back and do it again. You are allowed an entire repeat. It doesn't have to be immediately right after. If you want to come back 6 months down the line and do it again, it's still available to you. And then also there's internships available. Once the boot camp is done, there's an additional internship program that allows you to do an additional testing project that you can use towards kind of sharpening your skills. No, AVB, there will be no changes in the student interface. The LMS is what the LMS is. It opens up as the classes go. You have to pass the one section before you move on to the next section, right? You're not just allowed to willy-nilly go into whatever section of the program, right? It's like we teach you something, then you go and you do the assignments, and then the next thing unlocks. And we teach you that, you go back and do it, and the next thing unlocks. That's the way that it works. And that's what we found to be the most useful for students and us. How big do the classes get? It really depends. It could be there. It's an unlimited number. To be quite honest, it's never affected the quality of the class itself, or the material, because the material is what the material is. I am who I am, right? In the beginning, obviously, you'll get other instructors, but in the beginning, for the first close to a month, you're gonna see me, right? But that's how it works. Now, again, this is today price. Thursday, we'll stick around, but Thursday will be the last day that we're actually adding students. There are homework checkers who are not only giving you grades, they're giving you feedback on what you did right or wrong, right? The internships are very straightforward. You are just given a project to do the testing on, and then you are kind of not graded, but you're given feedback on how exactly you've done, and you're able to kind of figure out where you need more work or what you need to sharpen as far as your toolbox is concerned. So that is for our QA engineer course. Now, for those of you that have been interested, we do have an SDET course, which is a manual and an automation course together. The cost for that usually is about $5,000, but right now, for this week, we're giving you a discount for $42.49. All right. That's available to you right now. If you're interested, get in. You can just open up the QR code from this screen. I'm going to go back to it right now for a second. But you can go in there and you can get in touch with the admissions team. Let them know. You have to lock in the price and everything, and let them, hey, I'm here for the SDET course, and they will know you came from the webinar or from the class today, and they will be able to. And so everything that's included in this course is included in the SDET course. Plus, it's more automation focused. It is completely automation focused. So you'll get taught a little bit of the basic stuff, but then you'll just jump into the whole automation side of it, right? And again, if you look at honestly, the price has really very little bearing on the amount of money you can make as an SDET. An SDET in this point of time could possibly be the most what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? The most requested set of skills in the country right now, maybe even the world. You can literally work for any company in the world as an SDET. It is absolutely, Gulnar, that's correct. It's the most marketable skill that's out there. But the only thing is, it is extremely, it's not an easy thing. It's not as simple as manual testing, right? Manual testing is a black box. This is a white box type of testing, which is completely much more technically, difficult. Now, if you don't have any tech background, you have no IT background, you have trouble opening Windows, I'm sorry, like new Windows in like a browser, then you're gonna struggle with that course. But if you are technically savvy enough, you're kind of technically okay enough, you should be able to. I'm not sure exactly how long that course is gonna last. Again, get in touch with the admissions team. They'll give you all the specifics. I just want to let you know that it is being offered today. You guys are getting a discount. It's a $750 discount that you wouldn't usually. I am not an SDET. I am a manual QA. I've been a manual QA. I will probably stay a manual QA for pretty much the rest of my career. But I am senior level / I run a consulting company and things like that. So it's a different thing for me. Contact for the admissions team is through here. Take a picture of this QR code, or you can use this this URL. I'll send it to you. It is testpro.io/deal. All right, just copy and paste that into your browser, and you should be able to do. I cannot get in touch with the admissions team. They will let you know whatever you need as far as specifics are concerned. I'm giving you what I have at the moment right now. All right. The course would be, I think, probably a bit longer. I think it's between a 3 to 6 month course. I don't know the exact amount of time because the course structure itself is changing. But the course itself is $42.49. The SDET course. This is not even automation. This is one level above automation. This SDET. And it's a mishmash of manual and automation. So, but again, I will tell you this. Yes, a lot of programming in there, correct. I will tell you this. Know your limitations. Because if you pay that money and you decide to go in and you literally are not technically adept at all, you will quit. And it's not because they'll make you quit, because they won't. They'll try to give you every opportunity they can, but you will quit out of frustration because, again, you might be a little bit too far behind. Now, if you're okay and you think you'll be able to stay, you'll be able to do it, you should be fine. No, SDET is a higher level of automation. So that like you have QA analyst and QA engineer, you have automation engineer and SDET. It's like the same. It's like a one step up on the ladder kind of thing. All right. So again, that course is available to you. If you guys are interested, get in touch with the admissions team. It's a Java-based program. Yeah. So they teach you Java related to automation, but they might teach you additional languages as well. Again, you have to kind of find out. I am just kind of introducing this to people that were interested at the time about automation. So going back to the course for manual QA, our main course. No, I didn't say that at all. Our main course that we have been doing today, and we will be doing, and that's the one that I teach. I don't teach the automation or the SDET one. But again, this is what we've already spoken about what it includes. The QR code is available to you there. The price is $22.49. Like I said, this is the last week we'll be adding students, and I think after the course after the free week is over, there's one more free class session left, which is going to be Thursday, and then after that, those of you that are not they haven't purchased or are not part of the program or don't think they want to be part of the program, we're going to have to lock you out, and the focus will be on the people that are wanting to be part of the program. And have paid to be part of the program, to be quite honest, right? There is no programming that you require as part of manual testing that what we're doing, right? This is for people that have zero tech background. And again, like I mentioned today, like you kind of have gotten exposure as of today, right, on what exactly is expected of us. Now, obviously, it gets more technical. This is just the beginning. This is the basic stuff explained to you in the very basic manner, right? So you can understand it. And then again, I'm gonna spoon feed you until I put the water hose on you, right? That's kind of the way that I do this. And it's been a pretty good way to do it, right? To kind of really baby you in the beginning and then just throw you to the wolves. If you ever seen 300, it's kind of like that. All right. So on that note, again, this is the URL is there. It's testpro.io/deal. That's the QR code. If you're interested in automation, go to the website. Again, get in touch with, provide your information to the to the admissions team. They'll get in touch with you, let you know what your options are. If you're looking for a payment plan, God, jeez. If you're looking for a payment plan, that is available to you. Now, here's the thing about payment plans, right? If you want to do the course, we'll come up with a plan for you. Whatever you need to do, however many things you need to break it down into, should be no problem. But you have to commit to the program. You have to commit to doing it. Yeah, but the price that you have right now is not the price you're gonna have later on. I mean, it might change. It might be the same price later on, but for now, this is the the discount that you get if you're interested in automation and you want to go into that route. Maxim, is there any automation on Python? Yes, there is a lot of automation on Python. We just don't do that. We don't teach that here. If you've ever seen what was it, the Avengers movie, we don't do that here. But yeah, Python is actually a very useful skill for automation, but it's on the lower end of the automation spectrum. Java is a little bit on the higher end. Basically means you get paid more, and you're doing more complex projects and work. All right. Is Vladimir in here still? He's not. Okay, so he's asked me the same question like 8 times now. Yeah, I don't know what open beta is. All right. There's some people I know that might call them that, but I don't know what open beta is as far as Agile is concerned. I have no idea what it is, and I'm not sure why he's so stuck up on it. But in any case, again, this is it. This is our second session today. Thursday will be the last, same time, and then after that, we will be locked. You will be locked out. All right. Any questions related to the program? Now is your time. I'll give it to you for the next few minutes. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure. It's been fun. I'll see you guys on Thursday. For those of you that are stuck around, thank you very much. It's just send it. Just reply to the email, Jasmine, that you usually get from them, and just let them know, and you'll be having your prize. Eyes on the prize. Cool. All right. I look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday. Again, if you want to continue the free week, go ahead and come back Thursday. We'll see you then. Otherwise, I would recommend purchasing the program because again, time's gonna run out and the price might go up. I'm not sure if Thursday it's gonna go up to 2,500. I think it will. So if you think you want to do the program and you decided to wait until Thursday and you to purchase it, you might end up costing yourself $250. So yeah. Do you want to take that risk? Because at this point, you should probably know whether or not you think you want to do this. Because again, I can talk about examples all day long, but we've started doing the class now, so you see exactly how it's going to be like. Alrighty, cool. So time is up for today. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate your time. Great questions. Great participation. I will see you all on Thursday. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you then. If you put the deposit in Brent, then you locked in your price at that time. So whichever day you locked in your price, that is the price you should be going off of. Yeah, so your deposit will be used towards that price that you locked in. Alrighty, great. Thank you very much, guys. Take care. Have a great night, and I will see you all on Thursday. Bye-bye.